Hello and welcome to Direct Snap, the top level sports NFL talk show. My name is Connor Groel and I'll be your host this evening and every Wednesday night on the show. The Giants are officially eliminated from playoff contention, so I can stop being biased and state the obvious that this was not a playoff team this season, although they did have a few games that, could have gone their way here and there. But I think overall the consensus pretty clearly was that, we're still a year or two too early for this team, and with the uncertainty at quarterback position, although I do believe Eli Manning will be the starting quarterback in 2019, with some of the uncertainties in the future with this team, that, we just needed to – it wasn't going to happen this year, and they kind of need to reevaluate what we want for our future, have the potential for a lot of cap space this season, especially if Eli takes a pay cut and we can get rid of a few other guys like Olivier Vernon, just, costing way too much money for the relative lack of performance and health. But anyways, moving on, it is week 16. We do have 2 weeks left in the NFL season before we head into the playoffs. We now have 4 teams, I believe, or actually 5 teams have clinched the playoffs, which means 7 spots still available. The number 1 seed, home field advantage, and the first round buys in both conferences are still up for grabs, as well as a flurry of teams trying to squeeze into those final few wild cards. And we'll definitely talk about that in the show coming up in, maybe 10 minutes or so. First, we'll start off with the headlines and then talk about the playoff picture in both conferences, second half of the show. As always, power rankings and week 16 predictions, followed up by some questions at the end if anybody has anything. And we will get there at the end, but of course we will start with the headlines. We're going to get straight into it today. And the Pro Bowlers have been announced. This happened yesterday. Last night, the Pro Bowlers have been announced for the 2019 Pro Bowl coming to Orlando the week before the Super Bowl. So that is January 27th will be the Pro Bowl this season. Not a ton of surprises for me looking at who made it. And the stories on NFL.com and the stories on just about everywhere. If you're watching this show, you have access to the internet, so you can find it. Not too difficult to find out. Some of the things, just go through some of the big positions that I know people are, looking at. Quarterback in the NFC, Drew Brees and Jared Goff. Those two are no surprise. The surprise was Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, had set the record for most consecutive passes thrown without an interception this season, but overall the team has not been great. And outside of that interceptions number, really, Aaron Rodgers has been down himself this season, so many, including myself, didn't really expect him to be on there. But, Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. The Packers are 5-8-1 outside of playoff contention, but he does get the spot anyways over some other guys that were definitely in contention for it. In the NFC, Matt Ryan comes to mind, but, equally unimpressive were his Falcons at 5-9 this season. So I can't complain too heavily about this one. The AFC is a little more interesting as far as the quarterback goes. Again, the two that everyone knew were going to be there in Pat Mahomes and Phillip Rivers. Again, 2 more MVP candidates, just like the 2 MVP candidates in the NFC. Drew Brees and Jared Goff, although at this point Jared Goff is out of contention, but he had been for quite a while in contention. And then the third one is Tom Brady, and this is a very similar selection to the Aaron Rodgers pick. It's an older guy. He's, played in all these Super Bowls, so successful, Hall of Famer. Many would say these two are 2 of the 3 best quarterbacks of all time. At least top 5 probably for both of them, if we're being honest. Instead, though, Tom Brady gets the nod over a guy like Andrew Luck, who I thought might have been more deserving. Andrew Luck has had a pretty phenomenal season in his comeback year that we weren't sure was going to happen. We weren't sure Luck was going to get back to himself or not, but nearly just under 4,000 yards. He'll probably finish with about 4,500 this season, already 34 touchdowns. To me, he probably would have been a smarter selection for that 3rd spot. And, but he doesn't make it. So he is an alternate. Another alternate coming from the Colts is Darius Leonard. This was surprising for me. I definitely thought Darius Leonard, their linebacker, would have been a Pro Bowler. Perhaps this is just kind of the deal with they don't necessarily love giving rookies Pro Bowl spots. Same with other sports. You don't really see too often rookies in basketball per se. We didn't see Joel Embiid make an all-star team or Ben Simmons make an all-star team or, guys that come out and are immediately great. And I think that's part of that is because, we're not sure if it's lucky yet or if they're really that good. Part of it might be some kind of bias towards you want to give older guys the benefit of the doubt, especially if, they haven't made Pro Bowls before. Not to say that Tom Brady hasn't made any Pro Bowls before. He actually, I believe this is either his 14th or his 15th. But that tied, actually, was it even that many? Let me look. But I do know Tom Brady tied the all-time record. He's now the 5th guy with this amount of Pro Bowls. Yes, it was his 14th Pro Bowl, which ties the all-time record. And I do think this will probably be his last one. So we'll be stuck with 5 guys with 14 Pro Bowls. Peyton Manning, another one. And the rest of them, can't come to my mind at the moment. But Tony Gonzalez is a third that comes to mind. But yes, elite company, and you're definitely, you expect Tom Brady to be an elite company. But anyway, Darius Leonard, the rookie linebacker for the Colts, is leading the NFL in tackles, and it is not remotely close. So far this season, Darius Leonard of the Colts with 146. That's 22 more than second place Luke Kuechly, and then kind of, the mob under that. Also 7 sacks and an interception for Leonard in his first season. He's probably been the best player on that Colts defense. Surprising to see. And Derwin James probably gets the nod for Defensive Player of the Year, but Darius Leonard is still in the conversation there, and it is surprising to see Darius Leonard not make the Pro Bowl for sure. Just running down some other names. Running backs. We did have a couple rookie running backs make the Pro Bowl. Philip Lindsay from the Broncos, and what a great story he has had, and along with Saquon Barkley from the Giants. Todd Gurley, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, the running backs making the Pro Bowl out of the NFC. Not too much of a surprise. These are probably the 3 best running backs in the league. They are 1, 2, and 3 in rushing yards, and the only 3 guys with over 1,000 rushing yards so far this season. And in third place, Barkley's at like 1,150. So these guys definitely have separated themselves from the pack. James Conner, the Steelers running back, who has been hurt for the last month or so. Has it been that long? Does make the Pro Bowl, as well as Melvin Gordon around at that list with Philip Lindsay in the AFC, despite the fact that Connor's missed some time. And the rest of it, again, you're more than welcome to look at it yourself. There are some names, not a ton of other surprises, kind of the regular names, and some of the guys have really been overperforming. Eric Ebron does get the tight end for the Colts, does get a Pro Bowl spot along with Travis Kelce. Just a quick run through. I mean, there's not anything that's going to make me, really jump out at me as saying this is, so wrong. What are we doing with this list? Outside of the fact that Tress Way was not the punter out of the NFC. And the punter out of the NFC, that goes to Michael Dixon, the Seattle Seahawks punter out of UT, Hook 'em Horns. But Tress Way, the Redskins kicker, or punter, over 60 punts this season, 36 punts downed inside the 20 and 0 touchbacks. Definitely thought he should have been the starter on that end. But, when we get down to talking the semantics of punters in the Super Bowl, I think they did a decent job overall. I did not start with the Ron Baker news, Brian, but, why not? Give him a shout out. Shout out to Ron Baker signing with the Wizards. That news actually escaped me, and I know you're going to kill me for that. Now, as I Google it, apparently it's only an hour old, so I did not miss the boat by too much. Spent much of the last hour working on the show. But, hey, Ron Baker. I mean, it looks like the Wizards are trying to get their team together, try to trade for Trevor Ariza. And Ron Baker, just another one of those crucial pieces that'll hopefully move the Wizards back into contention after a very rough start to the season. But they have rebounded from it relatively nicely. And obviously a humongous addition with Wichita Ron Baker. All right, let's move on. Top team struggling. That's another one of these stories I want to talk about with you tonight. A lot of teams have had, I think I talked about big winning streaks about a month ago on the show. Don't really expect anyone to remember, but big losing streaks we've seen. The Steelers have gone on there. They had lost 3 in a row before they beat the Patriots, kind of saving their season. The Panthers have lost 6 in a row. But outside of these teams, really top teams struggling. Like really top teams. We've seen the Rams lose twice in a row. Now they lost to the Eagles last week after falling the previous week to the Bears. Have not looked themselves. Again, only 6 points against the Bears. They only had, I think, 9 or 10 points going into the fourth quarter against the Eagles. And almost, they tried to mount a comeback, but obviously their offense has not been the same. What's going on with them. Of course, they've played against, the Bears, probably the best defense in the league, and the Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions. So strength of schedule has something to do with that, but they have not looked like themselves so far this season. It's a good thing that they get the Cardinals and the Niners to close their year, so they should pretty easily go 2-0 and maintain their 2 seed, but still a bit of cause for concern there. We've now seen the Patriots drop back to that game, so the Dolphins and the Miami Miracle and the Steelers. The Saints have not looked dominant in 3 games now. 3 games ago, they lost to the Cowboys, and then the last couple weeks, close wins, or a come from behind win against the Bucs, and similarly, a come from behind, pretty ugly 12-9 win against the Panthers. So the Rams, or the Saints, who we still think are the number 1 team in the league, have been struggling as of late. Drew Brees has been, I think, in my opinion, has kind of squandered his chance at MVP. He's still going to be in that top 2 or 3, but as of now, my MVP vote has switched over to Mahomes and potentially even to Phillip Rivers as the number 2 over Drew Brees, over his struggles over the last 3 weeks or so. We've seen, the Chiefs have had some rough stretches. Chiefs falling a couple times recently to the Chargers and the Rams. And of course, those are, 3-point loss and a 1-point loss, and to 2 of the other top 4 teams in the league. So not too much cause for concern there. But I think what it comes down to for me is that, really the only team that we've seen that's really on fire right now in the league is the Chargers. Chargers are definitely the hottest team in the league. They're the team no one wants to face right now. And outside of that, and really the Chargers, they've won, they've beaten good teams, but they've been close games. For me, that right now, there is no team that has, I think at the beginning of this year, we saw the Rams and the Chiefs go 8-0 to start the year or whatever. And we thought these 2 teams were just going to crush it. I don't think there are any dominant teams in the league right now. I don't think there is any team that's in the playoff race in either conference that you couldn't tell me, beat the Chiefs or the Chargers or the Rams or the Saints, and I wouldn't believe you. I think anybody can basically beat anybody. We know what teams are the best teams, but a lot of teams that are still Jekyll and Hyde in it, even in Week 16 now, that we don't really know how good any of these teams are, and it's kind of an interesting sentiment because normally 14 games in, we think we have some kind of clue, but often not. This year, often not the case. And you think about some teams like the Eagles. How good are the Eagles? We have no idea. Is Nick Foles going to save the day? I mean, who knows? Many other teams, the Seahawks, who knows how good they are? Who knows if some team's just going to be able to shut down the Rams in the playoffs? Who knows how good the Patriots are? Who knows how good the Steelers are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are very few teams in this league that we have a good idea of how, good or bad we think they are. And I think most of those teams are bad teams. And with the good teams, it's definitely more uncertain. However, we did still have 2 of these teams clinch the playoffs last week. Those were the Chargers and the Bears. The Chargers beat the Chiefs to enter a tie for the league, for the division lead in the AFC West, rather. All right, I'll insert a St. Nick Foles comment. Early Christmas present for the Eagles, the return of Nick Foles, their savior, who can only play well in December through February. God knows if he starts September, he'll be awful. If he starts for the Rams, he'll be awful. If he starts for anybody else but the Eagles in December or the winter time, he'll be awful. But And I mean, he didn't even have a fantastic game last week. You know what? No touchdowns, threw a pick, but gets the job done. So, good on him. But the Chargers and the Bears did clinch the playoffs. The Chargers now in a tie with the Chiefs in the AFC West, but still the 5th seed due to a division record tiebreaker. And the Bears still fighting for a first-round bye. They're probably not going to get it. They look super locked in, like 99% locked into the 3 seed. And again, not a team no one wants to play with their defense. And it's really, really come on strong over the last couple weeks. Also, a few more quicker things. Cam Newton is done for the year. Is that a sign that the Panthers are phoning it in? I mean, maybe. They have hardly a chance to make the playoffs anyways. They've lost 6 in a row since their 6-2 start. Down to 6 and 8, they'd need to win both games remaining and get super lucky. And one of those games is at New Orleans, and they just fell to New Orleans at home. So I think probably the smart decision here to phone it in for Cam Newton. Their new starter will be Taylor Heineke. And this guy's thrown, 5 passes in his NFL career. So, it'll be a little bit of an experiment. He played ball at Old Dominion. Not exactly the football powerhouse of a school like, Auburn and Cam Newton, but he will get his crack at it. He is bounced around a few teams over the last couple seasons, but Taylor Heineke will get his chance. And Old Dominion, to be fair, is a pretty good FCS team. I do believe there's another Old Dominion quarterback in the league, although his name is slipping my mind at the moment. But I do believe there is another one, which says something. But big opportunity for Taylor Heineke. And lastly, the Peterman is back. And Nathan Peterman has been signed to the Oakland Raiders practice squad. John Gruden taking a gamble on a guy he loved before Peterman's draft in 2017. If I can try to find some John Gruden comments on Nathan Peterman in the next few seconds, I will. Because he loved Nathan Peterman. I think he said Nathan Peterman was his favorite quarterback in the draft where Nathan Peterman came out of. And if you think about the quarterbacks that came out of the 2017 draft, we have Deshaun Watson, Mitch Trubisky, Pat Mahomes, to name a few. And, bold statement to say that the best quarterback in that draft was Nathan Peterman. And CJ Beathard as well, who's gotten some starts. And he's not been great, but he's been a lot better than the Peterman. But, John Gruden has his opinions. And so I think this is kind of a project he's wanted to take on. And he'll get this project with Peterman on the practice squad. But pretty absurd for him still to have a job at this point with, how many repeated chances he's gotten and how awful he's been just about every time. And not naming names, but we do have some free agent quarterbacks with a lot more experience. Leave it at that. Moving into the playoff picture, here's what it looks like in the AFC. Here are the 9. Technically the Browns still are in contention, but considering they're 6-7-1 and their path to the playoffs includes a mandatory Colts-Titans tie, I'm not gonna, fuel anybody's false hopes about Cleveland making the playoffs. It's been a fantastic year for the Browns by Brown standards, and definitely the future looks bright. I could definitely see this being a playoff team next year. It's not even remotely hard to see at this point. Don't want to jump the gun on anything, but it looks like a team with a lot of young pieces and a lot of potential. But not to be this year. However, it is to be for the Chiefs and the Chargers, the 2 AFC teams who have clinched. But looking at the number, we still fight mainly a 2-3 spot fight for home field advantage, or a first round bye, and at least another round of home field advantage between the Texans and the Patriots. How about this? The Texans started the year 0-3, and in Week 16 they can still take the 1 seed. Still possible. Pretty unbelievable stuff from the Texans. Dropped 1 game to the Colts, but other than that, they had a 9-game win streak. Picked up a road comeback victory against the Jets last week, and Closing off against the Eagles and the Jags, I like them to probably split it 11-4. I don't think it'll be good enough because I think that, or 11-5 rather. I think that Patriots will pretty easily take care of the Bills and the Jets. They'll both finish at 11-5 would be my prediction, and the Patriots beat the Texans, so they'll get the tiebreak. Some pretty great stuff from the Texans. Would love to see a Texans-Colts round 3 in the playoffs. I mean, I guess the Texans might not love it. They might love some other matchups better. I think everyone kind of wants the Dolphins. No one feels too threatened by the Dolphins, but we'll see. The AFC North is still up for grabs in that 4-seed battle between the Steelers and the Ravens. Looking at their schedules down the stretch, Steelers, Saints, and Bengals. If we assume a loss to the Saints, a win against the Bengals, of course, the reverse could happen in both situations, but probably 1-1 there. And at the Chargers, home against the Browns, again, probably a 1-1. If they can get the 1, it'd be nice, but I think the Steelers will maintain their half-game edge and take the 4. If we do see the Ravens finish at 9-7, unfortunately, I don't think it'll be enough. I think they probably do need the 2 wins. Because when you look at the Colts and the Titans are going to play each other in Week 17, so one of them's hitting 9. And you look at their Week 16 matchups, home against the Giants, home against the Redskins, gotta favor the AFC South teams in both of those matchups. So I still think the winner of that Week 17 matchup between the Colts and Titans is going to make the playoffs. And the Dolphins have by far the easiest schedule of anybody left in the playoffs picture. Outside, I guess, the Patriots, they probably have had an equal schedule to the Patriots, home against the Jaguars, at the Bills. But the Dolphins are too far out of it at this point. They're going to need to win both, get lucky, and I don't even have a ton of faith in the Dolphins to win both. I think probably out of these 2 games, I'll give them an average of 1.3 wins, I guess. But, we'll see. That's how things look in the AFC. NFC, a little less cluttered in the sense that the Saints are pretty locked in at the 1, Rams at the 2, Bears at the 3. The NFC East is still up for grabs, but I think the Cowboys are still pretty big favorites. The Seahawks have still not locked in the 5 seed, but if they beat the Cardinals, all they need is 1 win to clinch the playoffs due to tie breaks. So at 9-7, they'll be at least locked in for a playoff spot, and they will beat the Cardinals. So they're kind of locked in at the 5. I guess it could fall to the 6, but likely the 5. And then we get this, 4-way battle for the 6th spot. The Panthers probably not in it anymore. They've had plenty chances, like every game over the last 6 weeks, to keep themselves. I mean, if they went 1-5 over the last 6 weeks, they'd be a half game out. But no, they did not manage to do that. So they are still at 6-8 and now out of it. The Vikings, it'll be interesting because if the Bears are locked in at the 3 seed at the end of Week 16, which is possible. Well, actually, hold on. The Rams beat the Bears. The Rams are in, the Bears beat the Rams, so the Bears actually have the tiebreak with the Rams. I'm thinking along the lines of, if the Bears lose to the 49ers, then there's a good chance they'll be locked into the 3 seed regardless of the outcomes in Week 17, in which case they might want to rest the starters, whatever. But as long as they beat the Niners, they'll still be fighting for the 2, so they're not going to bench anybody, which is tough for the Vikings because, the Vikings would love for the Bears to rest a few people in that Week 17 clash. But I like that. I mean, I do think the Vikings will beat the Lions most probably. So take the Lions at 8, and that'll be a tough game against the Bears. So the Vikings, 2 wins obviously clinches them, considering they're in the 6 now. 1 win, which again is with most of these wildcard teams is the most likely scenario, will make things interesting. That'll leave us with the Eagles and the Redskins. If one of them can go 2-0, and I think the Eagles will probably be the team to do it. I favor them against the Skins, even though they'll be on the road against that game. Redskins, kind of a miracle they won any game since they're playing with their 4th quarterback in Josh Johnson, but they did play the Jags. So I guess, and then it just comes down to, can the Eagles beat the Texans, which will be the big game for them. I personally think it'll be very close. You'll see in my pick'em in a couple minutes, I'm taking the Texans, but would not be surprised at all to see the Eagles make the playoffs in the NFC. But other than that, I think it's probably just going to be the 6 you see right now, and maybe order flip-flops a little bit at the 5-6. All right, heading into the power rankings, here we go. At the bottom, not too much change at the bottom. Bump up the Niners. They did get a nice victory against the Seahawks, an upset in overtime, snapping a 10-game losing streak against Seattle. Other than that, the Jets had a chance to beat the Texans, but they blew it late, and the Jaguars are the Jags. And the Raiders and the Cardinals continue to disappoint. Lions falling down hard after losing to the Bills. Not too much more to talk about there. Do have the Giants taking a tumble and the Falcons passing them up for now the top 5-win team in the league after they took apart the Arizona Cardinals like 40-14, I believe. The kind of game we know the Falcons are capable of, but they've put in, maybe 1 or 2 of those games all season long. Do have the Bengals moving up as well. The Redskins, again, they're not dead in the water yet. They're 7-7. They still got a chance. Move them up. It was a really ugly victory against a really bad team. So, why am I moving them up 4 spots? Well, at the end of the day, they're 500 and they're still playing meaningful football. So, give some credit where credit is due. Josh Johnson and co. found a way to get something going and find a way to get a win. Really disappointed to see the Broncos fall out of it. The Broncos lost a lot of close games earlier on in the season. They were at 3-6. Then when they finally moved up to 6-6, I got excited. I thought maybe the Broncos could steal a playoff spot, but they got upset 2 weeks in a row. And there goes their season as the Dolphins season, probably with their loss in Minnesota. The Browns are in the top half. Oh, my goodness. Browns are in the top half. Unbelievable. But here we see kind of the log jam, as I'll just show everybody, as I kind of intended to do in previous weeks. We have 7 AFC teams in the top 10. We have this tremendous log jam between the Steelers, Colts, Titans, Seahawks, Ravens, Cowboys, where, just take your pick. Throw it, Vikings. Eagles, I think, are probably the 15. That's the point where we are. Beat the Rams, only go up 1 spot, but there was kind of a sizable gap there. But we're at a point where all these teams, I think this whole, I guess the Steelers are probably solidify themselves in the 8, but even the 7, 8 Patriots, Steelers don't look great. But this 9 through 14 is really a rank them any way you want to. I see absolutely hardly anything between these teams. The Cowboys fallen deep because, they got blanked by the Colts. So the Colts will take their spot at 9, and the Cowboys will take the Colts 13. Titans moving up a little bit. The Titans a team that, they win one, lose one, win one, lose one. They've been a 500 team for like the last 4 years, just like the Redskins. And the Seahawks, a team I still have a lot of confidence in, but unfortunate to drop the one in overtime. Near the top, not too much change, except for the Chargers now are taking over the Chiefs spot at 2, and the Chiefs keep, the Chargers take over the 2, but the Chiefs keep their spot at 3 because I still have them over the Rams because the Rams have not looked too great as of late. Bears holding on strong, looking good with their clinched playoff spot, as do the Texans. Texans have not clinched, but, they're like 99%. And looking very good for themselves. Steelers, Patriots, still have the Patriots above the Steelers, but a couple teams, I don't know, a lot of uncertainty with both of these teams as of late and heading into the playoffs. Steelers and Patriots both look very beatable. All right, and final segment, we're going to do the predictions. Last week was a tough one because a lot of really weird things happened. Come on, look at the matchups last week. We had so many teams going down in weird ways. But here we are, just 2 weeks left, so let's try to make it a good finish. Redskins-Titans will be a Saturday game. I got the times right on the games this week. Kind of proud about that. No Thursday night or no game tomorrow. 2 games on Saturday and still a game on Monday night. And then your Sunday as normal. We have 2 games on Saturday. The first of these, the Redskins and the Titans, basically both fighting for their lives, I think is fair to say. The Titans are favored by a bunch. I'll give them the win, but not by as much as they need to cover the spread. 23-17 is going to be my call there. Moving on to Ravens-Chargers, as much as I would love to see the Ravens take this one, I mean, I'm on the Chargers bandwagon. I think if you've been following football over the last 2 months, you got to be rooting for Phillip Rivers at this point. He will be my pick. We'll see if he ends up being my MVP pick. We'll see over the last 2 weeks. Probably not. It'll probably be Mahomes. But like him to keep that winning streak, that'll be now 5 straight wins for the Chargers, 30-23 over Baltimore at home. Giants, Colts. Going to take the Colts here, 31-21. Giants got blanked last week. All of a sudden, Derrick Henry looks like the best running back in football. Don't know where that came from. Close to 400 yards over the last 2 weeks. Colts here, I like to keep their momentum going at home. Had one slip up against the Jaguars. Was that 2 or 3 weeks ago? But otherwise, they started 1-4. Here they are at 8-6. The AFC South has been really strange this season. We had the Texans start 0-3, and the Colts start 1-4, and the Jaguars start 3-1, and now the Jaguars are 4-10, and the Texans and the Colts are probably playoff teams, likely playoff teams, I think, and the Titans as well. Jaguars taking on the Dolphins, and the Dolphins are one of the worst 7-7 teams ever, but they'll at least go 500 on the year playing Jacksonville. Look for them to take that win with relative ease, I think. This is an interesting one. The Falcons and the Panthers. Panthers at home, but certain Taylor Heineke. I will give the quote-unquote upset. I don't really know if this is an upset at all, but I will give it to the Falcons. Really strange how earlier in the year we had, all 4 teams in the AFC divisions, NFC South looked really good. The Saints obviously looked fantastic. The Panthers started the year fantastic. The Bucks with the Fitzmagic and everything, they were like 3-1. And the Falcons, they had a bit of a slow start, but we still thought they might have been the best team in that division. It looked like a division where all 4 teams could finish 8-9 wins at least. And as it turns out, the second place team in this division is only going to have 6 or 7 wins by the end of it. And the Saints are going to run away with this division by like 6 or 7 games. As all these teams kind of collapsed. The Bucks collapsed, the Panthers collapsed, and the Falcons never got it going. Bengals, Browns. Browns are now favored by 8.5. We're getting a little too cocky, Cleveland. But I do like them to take a win, 27-21 over the Bengals. Both of these teams have been impressive over the last couple weeks. I thought the Bengals were just going to be absolutely hopeless, but they have turned in 2 decent games in a row. And they managed to, almost have a chance at beating the Chargers, and they beat the Raiders, so good on them. Cowboys like them over the Bucks, 27-16. And a lot of questions about the Bucks' future this offseason. It'll be an interesting one in Tampa. Got the Vikings taking on the Lions. And the Lions lost to the Bills last week. And I got to start giving the Bills some more credit, up to 5 wins. We can't just be shocked every time the Bills beat somebody. They have been fairly decent over the last couple months. A lot better than I think anyone expected. And credit to the head coaching job done by the Bills head coach, whose name has slipped my mind, Sean McDermott. He's done a decent job with, the pile of trash he's been handed. Although, where was I going on that? Oh, yeah, so the Bills, I don't think they're going to win this week, but the Vikings, well, actually, who are the Bills playing? Oh, yeah, the Patriots. Yeah, they're not winning this week. But I will give the Vikings a much-needed win to hold on to that 6th spot in the NFC, 24-17. That was a bit of a convoluted prediction. But moving on, Patriots, Bills. Patriots 28-20. Bills kept the last matchup with the Patriots close for 3 quarters. I think they'll do the same thing again. And ultimately, the Patriots get the win, but not in impressive fashion. Jets and Packers. I think this has been the first pick'em all year, a game with an even money line. But, I mean, come on. Got to give one to the Packers. Just have to. Aaron Rodgers is better than anybody on the Jets, except for, maybe Jamal Adams. But, how do you compare a safety and a quarterback? Texans playing the Eagles, a very close one, very big game for the Texans trying to keep the 2 seed, and the Eagles trying to make the playoffs. See the question, who are the Texans likely to play at home for their first playoff game? Take your pick. The Steelers, the Ravens, the Colts, the Titans, any one of them. Most likely I would say the Colts, but, who knows. I will take the Texans to win this game, 27-24. It'll be tough for Philly fans. And if Eagles and the Redskins both lose like I'm predicting this week and the Vikings win this week, that will be it for the NFC playoffs. That'll be the Seahawks and the Vikings clinching. So potentially the NFC could be over before week 17, which is kind of underwhelming, but, it's possible. Rams against the Cardinals. I fully expect the Rams to just blow the Cardinals out of the water here. 34-10. Just they got to be angry. And the Cardinals, the Cardinals have beat the Niners twice this season, and they beat the Packers on a missed field goal by Mason Crosby. But other than that, they've just kind of been tossed around. So that's that. Bears and Niners, a bit of a closer line than I might have been expecting. Of course, this has to be influenced by the Niners win last week. But I will still take the Bears here, 2013. Do think I like a lower scoring matchup here. Steelers against the Saints. This would be a massive win for the Steelers. I think this will be a very good game. Like the Saints offense get back on track, like a very close one. Last possession wins kind of game, potentially. And I'll give it to the Saints 28-27. Then at Sunday night, as we wrap this up, I would love to see this game. I do give the Chiefs the edge here over Seattle, but this one could go either way. Definitely would not count Seattle out here. And then on Monday night, the Broncos take on the Raiders. And I was a little high on the Raiders. Predict them to win the last couple weeks, but after that Bengals win, not as high on them anymore, clearly. And hopefully Peterman will not be necessary, but I do like the Broncos to take it 26-21. Those are my picks for week 16. As always, shoot me anything quick if you have it. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next week for the final show of the year. I will make my picks available on Facebook, Twitter, probably the website as well. But no full shows during the playoffs. I will be on vacation for the first week of the playoffs. But maybe do something for the Super Bowl. But how long can we talk about 1 or 2 games a week? What a loser Monday night game. Definitely a little underwhelming. I don't even know what they were expecting with this one coming into the season. This game is not supposed to be good. It was not supposed to be good in September. It's not going to be good now. I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? But that is going to be it for me. I've been your host, Connor Groel, as always. This has been Direct Snap, the Top Level Sports NFL Talk Show. You're on the Facebook page. Follow me on Twitter. Follow Top Level Sports on Twitter. TopLevelSports.net is the website. And I'll be back at you again next Wednesday for Week 17, the final Direct Snap of the year. Thanks, everybody, for watching tonight and all of this year, and I will see you next week.